My number two is probably going to shock you, but I had to go back and put it in my good ears, as Stephanie said, because Stephanie knows James loves a good dirty knife fight. And I feel like my number two was a dirty knife fight because this person came in and stole it. Hello, welcome to the Pitchy Podcast. We're your hosts, James
and Stephanie.
Here on the Pitchy Podcast, we are passionate about good music and a great vocal. We'll use the vehicle of NBC's The Voice to give you our take and our feedback on each contestant's voice and overall performance. Here on the Pitchy Podcast, we'll always keep it 100 with our critiques, but what we're never here to do is come for anyone's character or any contestant as a human being. Though we may come off a little pitchy at times, just not right now, because we are in the off season.
We still might be.
To speak our truths with love, kindness, and respect. And with that, let's jump into another special episode of the Pitchy Podcast, post season 25. We are in the best ofs.
Yes.
According to James and Stephanie of the Pitchy Podcast.
That's
so
right.
We have moved into my favorite round. I make no qualms about it. No excuses. I love the creativity that the battles bring. I love just when we have a collaboration, when we make art, but I also like the competition of it all, Stephanie.
Yes, so, absolutely.
Stephanie, tell the pitchies the format that we're taking while we are in our best ofs.
Sure. So what we will do is we will both have our top 5 performances, and we're also allowing ourselves 2 honorable mentions. And just in case you have not seen any of our best ofs, James and I will be sharing our own separate lists, and we share them live on the podcast. So we have not discussed our lists, and we always take a lot of enjoyment from seeing how our lists line up or how they differ.
They either come together, but I have a feeling, Stephanie, this season, they're going to be quite different for the battles.
I think so.
You know what? For the most part, I forgot about most of these. I haven't gone back and listened to these battles like I would in previous seasons because I just felt like the second half of this season was like I couldn't stop listening to it, but it was really enjoyable to reminisce on this incredible work that these contestants did this season.
Okay, I want to have an honest conversation just to start out with about these battles, because you're touching on the feeling that I got from this battles, and I'm going to be straight up because we keep it real on this podcast. For me, and I'll speak for me, and then you can speak for you. For me, these battles were not personally as impactful to me as past seasons. Just like you said, there were a lot of these battles that I kind of forgot about. And I won't say it's because it was because of lack of talent. I don't think that's what it is. I think in previous seasons, what we saw happen a lot was a really cool blend of the right contestants along with the right song, along with the right arrangements that made for some, what do we call them? Like, I forget the term that we used for these certain performances that were just so outstanding that they left a lasting impact. For instance, Sasha and Devix. Like, Sasha and Devix were 2 separate contestants, but they will always be Sasha and Devix because of Electric Feels. You had Bodie and Jaden.
Yep.
You had Michael B. and Riley Tate. You had Kaylee and Elizabeth. Yep. You had Ephraim and DJ doing the Cry Me a River. You had Allie and D Smooth doing Unaware. You had Bias and Jackie. You know, like, there were just some really standout battles that we've seen over our tenure on the podcast. And I just felt like there were some really great in collaborations this season, there wasn't one necessarily that gave me that OMG, lightning in a bottle. That's what I was looking for. That lightning in a bottle moment. There was one that kind of gave it to me. And even that was not my number one. But there was one that kind of gave that to me, but not really this season for me.
I just got chills when you said that, because sometimes your and my brains are so succinct with this. I agree with you 100%. Like, I would probably say my top two. One of them was a standout performance, but it wasn't my number one.
Right.
And the thing that I just remembered was, this is the first time I am going back and listening to these battles in my good ears. I did not remember we were taping the night of.
Right.
Yes. At this point, we weren't doing next day tapings like we usually did because of my rehearsal schedules and your life and just life, period.
Life.
We were doing night of taping. So you were hearing in your good ears, and some of them I had to reminisce over the conversations that we had, because I didn't like that. And you were like, you might want to go back and listen to your good ears, because it was a lot better than you were at. So I listened to everyone that, well, I'm going to say I kind of cheated, but it's not really a cheat. So you know how on YouTube, when you go back to previous things that you've listened to,
yes,
I went back and like all the ones that were like all the way red across.
Yes.
First, because I was like, okay, for some, that, because that means I went back and re-listened to something.
That's right.
So, and my ears did not fail me, but there were a couple that I did not. But to go back and listen to today, especially the one that was the standout for me this season, that's the one I went back and listened to with my good ears. That was fire. And we'll get there.
Okay.
But it wasn't my number one. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into our honorable mentions.
Okay.
Would you like to go first? I think I started it in the blind. So
yes.
Go ahead and pinch it for me.
All right. So my first honorable mention was Tay Lewis and Elle Rogers. We Don't Fight Anymore. And I did not write down who the artist of that song was, so I apologize.
That was because they are on my list. It's Carly Pearce and Chris Stapleton.
Thank you.
So it was actually a duet.
Yes, it was an actual duet. Yes, originally. Number one, the vocal. Number two, the passion. Number three, the tell the story of it all. Like, the look in both of their eyes was like, this was real life, y'all. Like, they was in a relationship and they at the point where they can't even fight no more. Like, that's how impactful it felt in the moment. Like, I was like, yo, like, what is there? It was so intense that it actually made you wonder, is there something going on? Which is the marking of a both beautiful performers, that they can put themselves into a song that much to make it seem believable. That song, it made an impact because there was so much passion, and I could feel the hurt of the song through their performance. So, honorable mention.
I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach. I'm not going to tell you, because it was not one of my honorable mentions, but it was my top 5. I'm not going to tell you what was in my top 5, but while we're here, I might talk about it.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Dumped,
Sure.
So the thing to go back and listen to this one, that a couple of things that I caught that I don't think I caught the first time. I wrote down, this song showed that Elle Rogers was a front runner vocalist.
Right.
To me. Because I think she had a really good blind. It wasn't memorable. She wasn't in either of our top 5s for the blinds.
Right.
But I think this is where I think both of us were like, wait a minute. She can sing it down.
Yes.
So shout out to a local, Elle, we love you.
Yes.
Tell us about your shows, please. She is a local a local contestant for us,
Yes.
as to where Stephanie and I reside. Um, Another thing about Elle, which was so amazing, is she showed her diversity. This was a country song,
Yes.
like through and through. Country
Mm-hmm.
soul song. Because anything
Yes.
with Stapleton on it, you're going to have the all in
That's
it.
right. That's
But
right.
I heard, like you said, because country, a lot of country it's all about the storytelling. Dolly Parton will tell you, you
You
better tell.
better tell the story.
And
Yes.
to your point, I really agree with that. And I think that Elle was, because this is Tay's genre, I think
Yes.
Tay had an advantage, but I thought that Elle had to really shift what type of singing she did to show her diversity of
Right.
styles, right?
Right. Right.
And that's why I was like, okay, I remember thinking she is a front runner because
Right.
she can shift right into country. Like it just seemed effortless.
Yeah.
What she did. This is where I also put Tay in the same category as Gene and Nathan
Mm-hmm.
with his upper extension. You
Mm-hmm.
really started to hear Tay's like tenor in this
Right.
song, and
Right.
like you were like, okay, he's a country singer and he's got insane soulful vocal in those chords, right? On
That's right.
that throat.
That's right.
And I just was like, wow. So yeah, I agree. They were in my top five. So I'm glad that they were on your honorable mention list. My
Absolutely.
first honorable mention, and if they were in your top five, if you don't mind doing the same thing, Stephanie, just don't tell me.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
My first honorable mention is Madison and Kyle. Lucky James
Mm.
has with a little sprinkling, a little Espanol. I said, this
Mm-hmm.
is where Kyle really started to stand out. Because
Mm-hmm.
number one, Kyle is not a native Spanish speaker. Madison is of Latina culture, so she of heritage, excuse me. So she does speak Spanish in her home,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it was. I'm sure this was a lot easier for her. But you could have fooled us, Kyle, at this point, because the way you just flowed in and out of your Espanol was fire,
Yes.
and all
Fire.
really took note to it. Because
Yes.
remember, Kyle is a teenager. Was a
Yes.
teenager when he was 19 years old when he did this, and I remember. I don't remember. I was like, and he looked like one of those old school directors with that little scarf around his neck.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I thought this is where I love that they both were playing the guitar. They're both strumming their
Mm-hmm.
pain. And I love that I felt like Kyle lifted his level to Madison. Kind of like
Mm-hmm.
Elle did with Tay.
Mm-hmm.
Madison was more comfortable because she could go in and out of the Espanol, but the way Kyle did, I was like, okay, I'm watching this young man, and he had crazy vocal, and Madison sang
Yes,
it
he
down
did.
too. This was a really really good battle.
Mm-hmm. So I will say that it is on my list, so I will discuss it now.
Okay.
Um, this was one of the ones where there was that magic for me.
Mm,
And it was especially so because of a note that I had given Kyle down the road in the performances,
I
which was,
remember that.
bruh, I
I
need
remember.
you to open your eyes. I need you to open your eyes. And it was so interesting that, if I'm not mistaken, in this performance, when he was singing alone, he had his eyes closed. But when him and Madison were duetting together, when they were singing together, he had his eyes wide open. And there was just magic. And I think that we kind of made the joke, like at the time, like, are they dating? Like, is there
Oh,
something going on?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
their chemistry was so good.
They look like a beautiful couple singing to each
Yes,
other.
they did. And it even highlighted the point that I had made further down the road. It highlighted that with this performance because Kyle just shined when his eyes were open. And
Yeah,
yeah, and the fact that his first language is not Spanish, nor was he a speaker of Spanish, but the way that he was able to deliver his vocal and deliver those Spanish lines just effortlessly was so beautiful. And Madison, oh my goodness, she was just glorious. She
yeah,
was just glorious. Like, this song obviously felt more in her comfort zone because of the fact that she's a Spanish speaker, and they decided to do a version of this where Spanish was sung, but vocally where it sat in her register, and it was just such a beautiful song for her voice, and it was just such a beautiful collaboration of the two. This is one performance where I felt like there were others, but this one in particular felt like a Grammy performance, in the fact that you have two differing artists that would not usually come together and do a duet. They came together, did this duet of different vibes and different genres, but the way that they came together and pulled it up so beautifully, and the quality of it made it seem like a Grammy performance.
Yeah,
so
it did.
So I'll let you know where it is on my list later.
Because we're still in honorable mentions, y'all.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
So, you know what? This lets me know again, Stephanie and I really aren't too far off with our idea of thought for
That's right.
For our taste. All right, so we'll flip over to me. My next honorable mention, this might shock you a bit because I have a feeling this one may be in your top 5, but it is Alyssa and Havon. And We Don't Need Another Hero. Thunderdome! By the late, great Tina Turner, who we just lost last year.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I said Havon. Asher Havon. Sorry,
yes.
Asher. But I love that. And it's interesting because I don't remember thinking this when I initially watched this battle, but I felt that Alyssa was hanging with Asher. Like, I felt that she hung because we all know, number one season 25 winner, hindsight's 2020. But
right.
I know how special of a vocalist Asher is and was even back then.
Yeah.
So I thought it was awesome because I love just the whole sound Alyssa brought to it. I was like, okay, Stephanie and I aren't crazy, because when one of the first comments I saw on YouTube was, okay, someone said, I just heard 11 singers in Asher's throat. Started naming them. He was like, Bill Withers, it's Marvin Gaye. He just started naming like, right.
And
that's what we had said about Asher all season.
That's right.
But Asher could do it with the female and the male singers, which was insane.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he took like the best of every best singer, and it was all here. And that's what made this one so special for me. I didn't think it was necessary. I remember I was like, is this the best song choice for a battle? Because I have a feeling, and Stephanie, I could be wrong, I have a feeling that they don't pick their battle songs. They can't, right? How can they, right?
This is an instance where it would be very, very, very likely that the producers would, because somebody would pick a song that does not necessarily lend itself to the other singer.
Right, because the producers pick the battle partners, right?
Partners,
the producers pick the knockoff partners, and especially if you have multiple people with one coach, right? Obviously,
right.
But so I think that these arrangements are done so well. Paul and the band do the arrangements so well that I think. But then I also remember talking to people like Kate, and they said that they do give them some artistic freedom to rearrange things. Like they'll give them the foundation of what they want.
Yeah.
So I didn't really think this was the best battle song. I thought it would be a great solo song for any one of the singers, because everyone always said Tina sang like a man. If you go back and watch her biography or read her biography, they would tell her back in the 60s, sing like a man, or she sings like a man. She's too hard. And I mean, come on, Tina Turner is an icon and created her own style of singing. So I didn't necessarily like the choice of song, but I thought they both slayed. And brava to Alyssa for hanging with the Asher Havon.
That's right.
He was right there with him. Stephanie?
That's right. It is on my list as well. I refuse to talk about it now, based on where it is. Based on where it is on my list.
Okay, no problem at all.
I want to give it its just due. So my second honorable mention is probably one that's in your top 5, maybe not. You may be shocked where it is on that is in my honorable mentions. It is Arletto and Val T. Saving All My Love by Whitney. The back half of this song, OMG. 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 Snappage. That is exactly what I wrote, is snappage. And I said,
this is my number 5, so I'll just go right in.
Okay, great. Yeah. Snappage. So I believe that we talked about this particular point I'm about to make in the original podcast, that it did seem like the beginning of this performance for the both of them was a little timid. It felt like they walked into this performance thinking, oh, ish, this is Whitney saving all my love. Like, OMG, like, huge song. And not that either one of them was singing badly or it was a train wreck or anything like that. It just felt very timid, especially for the quality of vocal that we know that they both had. I saw in the middle of that performance, like, let's get this together. We gonna do this. And like, yeah, it was like a snappage that happened. Like, Val did her thing and then Arletto did his thing. And then they saving all my love. Like, it was just like, it was like, and I'm going to put this on Val. It was like Val was like, we're going to do this. And she was almost like conducting and like willing the both of them to get it together and sing this song to their full potential. And that is what we saw at the back half of the song.
So let's ping pong a bit. To your point, because you made some really, really good points. I want to go back and talk about the beginning and listening to this back in my good ears. I specifically liked what Arletto was doing. I felt like he was handling the first half, especially Arletto handling the first half of the song very delicately. I use delicate. They can mean the same thing in different contexts. But I liked it. Going back and rewatching this, I feel, and I could be wrong, Stephanie, because we didn't, talk to Arletto or Val, but I feel like it wasn't, his timidity was intentional.
Okay.
That's just me.
Okay.
Because I liked it. But yeah, to your point, I put the end of that song, I said it was superstar quality.
Yes, it was.
I'm talking about what they were doing with what the band was doing.
Yes.
What they were doing, like just the arrangement of it, vocal of it. I said it is a travesty that Val did not go further in this competition, because what she was doing was, to me, raising the whole level, and Arletto's level shot through the stratosphere, because I thought Val was bringing everybody's level up.
Yes, I agree.
And it was fire.
Yes, it was.
Fire.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. So that was my number 5.
Okay.
Which I'm shocked that it was not higher on my list, but to your point, I feel like it was not. It was two different performances almost.
It really was. Yeah, absolutely. It was. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that's nice. They doing a good job. And then it was like, yo.
It's interesting that like that my first one, the Madison and Kyle both went through, right?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, so with Lucky. And then Arletto and Val both went through as well. Okay,
that's right.
So then we'll go to your number 5.
My number 5 is Gene Taylor and Ronnie Wilson, If I Was Your Man by Bruno Mars. There were multiple times during this performance when I was like, Jesus, because of the vocal. And it is so interesting because Gene and Ronnie have 2 totally different sounding voices. Gene's vocal sounded a little more throwback, and Ronnie's vocal was sounded a little bit more current. But the execution of both of them delivering the song, especially when they were soloing, was so incredibly solid, like shockingly. To the point where it was just like, nobody should go home. Like if they were both singing the song individually, it was like, what? Like this is a great song on Jean's voice. This is a great song on Ronnie's voice. So I mean, kudos to the producers for picking a great song for them to sing. And it was just really, really a really great performance. Vocally, it was one of the strongest, I feel like, because they were just both giving excellence.
Now that's the one that got away on my list. It did not make my list.
Okay.
That was the one I was like, oh.
Okay.
Like, but yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, especially anything that Gene was singing on. That's another one I was like, I think song choice may have did Gene into an early
yeah, I think so
in
too.
my opinion, because he was probably the most technically gifted, behind Asher, probably the most technically gifted singer on the show. Because of that. You know, anything that anyone that I compare to Steve Perry, I'm gonna already, you're gonna be my top two, right?
There you go.
So if you're like a Steve Perry, Freddie Mercury type voice, you're gonna be in my top two. Because they're like the greatest male rock singers of all time.
That's right.
Okay. So my number 4 was Elle and Tay. So we've already talked about it. So then I'm following it back to you for your number 4.
My number 4 is Jackie Romeo and Olivia Rubini, Edge of 17 by Stevie Nicks. Powerhouse vocals. Powerhouse vocals. And the fact that Jackie had never heard the song before. She ain't singing like she ain't never heard it before. She sang this song like she had been singing it since for like forever. And it was really cool to see them both be so comfortable on stage with this song and then show the same level of passion and like for this song, even though like Olivia had to school Jackie on this song, but you would never know that but for seeing the Be Real.
That song was Olivia's lane.
It was completely in Olivia's lane and it sounded so good in her throat. And the way that they just had fun on the stage, a little bit of choreography that they did, the attitude they brought to it, it was just fun. It was great to see because a lot of times when we see these battles, we see a lot of ballads. And it was just really fun to see two ladies up there singing a really, really great song with a monster powerhouse vocal and just having a good time at it. And it was just really, really excellent and really, really enjoyable.
Yeah, they did not make my list. I had a feeling.
Oh my God! Are you serious?
We're going to be a little bit different. Yeah, they did.
Jackie ain't make your list.
Well, she will make a future list, I'm sure. But she did not make this one. I did go back and listen to this one again. But I just had too many. My top 3 are just, to go back and listen to these top 3 that I'm about to go into were just, especially my number 3. My number 3, I would say, I should be my number 1, but it's not. And I don't know why, but as far as that special feeling that I got from the performance, this was Rivers and Maffei. You Got a Friend, James Taylor, with with sprinkling a little Espanol in it too. I said this was such perfection. This was the one I went back and listened to in my good ears, and I was like, we already know that what Maffei can do, but Rivers was giving me Jaden from when Bodie and Jaden did, like, that's what I got from Rivers. And I just was like, I said the Spanish, the way they, just the whole way it was just arranged. I'm getting chills talking about it. I said, this was where you could see that Maffei could sing anything.
Anything. Yeah.
And not only sing anything at the highest of quality and caliber. Where I was like,
Yeah.
okay, Mafa's about to take this competition. She's about to win this competition because
Right.
it was just so everything. Because you know what, Mafe was a powerhouse singer. Mafe pulled it.
Yes.
James Taylor is a singer-songwriter. Mafe pulled it all the way back.
Yes,
And
she
she
did.
was singing in the cut the whole time. And it matched
Yes, she was.
Rivers' just whole vibe. And that's why I was like, yo, this was special to go back and listen to this arrangement, Stephanie. I don't know if this is on your list, but if it wasn't, I suggest you go back and, unless you did already go back and listen to it. This was so good.
It is not on my list. I did go back and listen to it. And I remember how I felt the first time I saw it. The only thing that kept it from my list this time is that as peaceful, and because I think I described River's voice as peace. I think for me, this time around, it was a little too peaceful when he was singing on his own. I just felt like it was very quiet. It was
almost a whisper.
Quiet.
Yeah.
Almost a whisper.
Yeah.
But I will say, when they sang together, their blend was probably one of the best blends together, maybe of all the battles, because it was just so beautiful. It was a beautiful performance. It was.
Yeah, there was probably one other blend. Yeah. No, this was one of the top blends. You're right. You are exactly correct. Okay. So that was my number 3. Rivers and Mafe. Mafe and Rivers. You got a friend. Stephanie.
So my number 3, we already talked about. It was Madison and Kyle.
Okay.
We already discussed that. So I could share my number 2 unless you want to share your number 2.
Go for it.
My number 2 is Nathan Chester and Brian Olsen, Rolling in the Deep by Adele. These dudes, Dude Adele, 2 completely different styles, excellence on excellence. Their blend together was incredible for being 2 different styles of singing when they sang together. OMG. Can we talk about Adele? Hard song, y'all. Hard song. What I loved that they did, though, is that they changed the... Yeah, exactly. Right. I love the change of arrangement of the song to suit them, because it was a little bit more rock hard edge to this song as opposed to the original arrangement. And I think that it suited them both really, really well. Probably leaning and lending a little bit more to Brian's style. However, what can't Nathan sing and what can't Nathan adapt to, even though he was put in a lane or chose to sing in a lane? But the way that he delivered in this song as well was super impressive. I love their camaraderie in the song, to the point where I believe Nathan starts the song kneeling and Brian ends the song kneeling. Like, it was just, there was a reason why it was the leak. It was one of the leaks. So it was just outstanding.
Here we go. It was another team that, I mean, you want to talk about two of the battles, battle pairing where they both made it to the finals. I mean, both of them.
Deep runs. Yes, they did. They were rolling in the deep. They were rolling in the deep of the competition.
My number 2 is probably going to shock you, but I had to go back and put it in my good ears, as Stephanie said, because Stephanie knows James loves a good dirty knife fight. And I feel like my number 2 was a dirty knife fight because this person came in and stole it. She stole it, and that is OK3 and Zoe, the Bones, Maren Morris. I said, this is where I was like,
oh, this your number 2?
That's my number.
Oh, this your number 2?
My number 2. If you can believe it. But I know you can, because this is where Stephanie said, James, you're wrong. Go back.
Exactly.
And you know what? I am humble enough to admit when I am dead wrong. Stephanie said, go back and listen to what that young lady did on this song. And to go back and listen to it again, because I got some new good ears, Stephanie, because my other good ears started. So I got some new good ears. Stephanie.
Okay.
Zoe snuck in and stole this battle because OK3 was giving you everything as far as their harmonies. They were giving you, yes, we not only sing in harmonies, but just like Sorella, we can all sing solo too, really, really well. And Zoe is the definition of get in where you can fit in, because what Zoe did, it was like every little nuanced opportunity she had to show you how advanced of a singer she was. I call it like if Taylor Swift was one of the greatest vocalists, because she gave us that whole Taylor Swift vibe, but
yeah.
I think Taylor is more of a performer and a storyteller than she is a vocalist. I put Zoe up there with she can do it all. She can give us Taylor. She can give us Taylor with, I mean, the highest level caliber of vocal. Not saying that Taylor can't sing. It's Taylor's known more for something else, right? So I said, get in where you can fit in vocals. I said, because OK3 was giving everything, and Zoe said, vocally speaking, Zoe said, I will not be denied. And those runs, I mean, she took that knife and she was like, and the next thing you know, you're bleeding out and you don't know what happened. That's what Zoe did. So that's why it's my number 2, because she was so masterful with her battle attack. It wound up being glorious. The sound, I mean, the sound that the 4 of those ladies made was glorious. But Zoe just figured a way to stand out. And how are you going to figure out a way to stand out with a trio? That's like next to impossible. So that's why they're my number 2. OK3 and Zoe, the Bones, Maren Morris.
I'm shocked in the best way.
I knew that was going to shock you. But when I went back in the best way, when I went back and listened to it again, I said, okay, by that performance, Zoe should have won the entire competition because of what she did in that performance. Seriously.
She was so in the cut. I have never seen anybody sing that in the cut. And I'm saying in the cut in a different context, but how you described it is precisely right. Just finding spots. She found her spots. I did not have this on my list, and I'm going to tell you why. I was like, OK3, why you let her do that to y'all? Why y'all? I was like, why y'all let her do that to y'all? I was like, OK3, y'all are a great trio, but y'all let Zoe have her way. Y'all let Zoe, and they like OK3 sang really well. Individually, they sang well. Together, they sang well. But for me, when I watched it back, it was almost like they deferred to Zoe. And it almost like they played background to Zoe, and whether they meant to or not, like whether there was a thing where it was like, okay, there's 3 of us, we got to let her have her part. I understand that, but this is competition. And Zoe was like, all right, I'm going to take every spot that I can get and stand out. So I was like, I have a similar feeling, and that's why I left them off of my list. I'm like, why y'all let Zoe do that to y'all?
So no shade against OK3 because they could sing their behinds off. But you want to talk about would have been the most epic battles of battles? If give Sorella this song with Zoe, knowing what Sorella could do and what Zoe could do, and if the 2 of them, it'd have been a draw. It'd have been a draw because
it would have been a draw.
Because what Sorella would do, and Sorella did like Zoe, like they made themselves undeniable.
Exactly.
And to your point, Zoe came in and stole their lunch money. She really did. Sorella wouldn't have, they wouldn't have stood for it. They wouldn't have, they'd have stabbed her back.
No, you're absolutely right.
You know, again, that's no shade against OK3 because those
No.
ladies sing. They could sing their behinds off individually and collectively.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I'm saying Pharrella always figured it out how to, okay, we're going to make this work as a trio and we're going to make it undeniable as a trio. Yeah, that was my number 2.
Okay.
Well, obviously now I know what your number 1 is, and then now you probably know what my number 1 is because I didn't give you commentary on what you already talked about as your number 3.
No, number 2. My number 2. Yours is yours Nathan and Brian?
Yeah. My number 1 is Nathan and Brian. So
they were my number 2. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So your number 2 was Nathan and Brian. My number 1 was Nathan and Brian, and now I think I know what your number 1 is. But we'll talk about your number 1 because you held your tongue for your number 1. So Nathan and Brian, Rolling in the Deep. I said I almost forgot about this one in the sense of this was one of the only performances where Nathan sang something modern, like today. Today.
Yes, it is.
And the way he sang it, the way he attacked this song, I said it sounded like he was preaching. Okay?
Yes.
He sounded like a straight preacher on this song. Like Marvin, it's like it was Marvin Sapp where they sing "Rolling Deep."
Yes,
on the beat,
yes,
right? It was a pastoral attack. That's the best way I can describe what Nathan did, and it wasn't a throwback '70s soul song, which Nathan slayed us with from then on out, and
that's right.
Started the competition with. So that's why I forgot. I said, "Yo." Nathan really can sing anything because he's singing a modern song, a song that came out within the last 10 years. And I said, he preached it. He preached it. And I said, and Brian was giving me Jesus Christ Superstar. He was giving me, in fact,
1,000%.
I started thinking, I was like, wow. The way they are battling this, you could almost put this in that rock musical, this song, because it was like
absolutely
battle, and it felt like Jesus and Judas fighting each other.
Yes, absolutely.
And I was like, oh, what's happening here? I feel like I'm in a musical, and these two are like, one's Jesus and one's Judas, and it's like, there's a fire burning in my heart, reaching a feverish pitch and bringing me up. Like the stars are, like, it was like, it just felt like it was going back and forth. And you could have it all burning in the deep. And I was like, okay, I feel like this is Jesus talking about, I felt like it was because I felt like Nathan was preaching, right? So he was like Jesus. And then Brian was kind of like, well, I don't necessarily agree with that. And he felt like he was
That's right.
That's why I put it, I said, the Jesus Christ Superstar of it all. This is Jesus and Judas battling, and Judas is in denial.
I love that.
And that's how I felt. That's why I was like, this is so special because it took me to a place. That's why I put them in front of. I would have put them. I flipped mine before I came up with my final list because I had Rivers of Maffei as number 1.
Okay.
But then I had to because I love you. Stephanie knows, like I said before, she was like, there's nothing like a good knife fight. So that's why I had to put Zoe in front of that. But then I had to put Nathan and Brian in front as in my number 1 because it took me to a place. It took me there are a few singers that have taken me to a place. Like Kim Cruz used to do it all the time. That was what was so scary about it. Kim would transport us to somewhere. To time, right?
Yes.
It was like 1920 speakeasy or something like that, That's why they had to be my number 1 because I felt like they were truly telling a story, and it was a battle. They took a song that and turned it truly into a literal battle, right? So Nathan and Brian, the stars of your love remind me. Look, we could have had it all.
Mm.
Could have had it all. So what's your
Coulda.
number one, Stephanie?
My number one is Asher Havan and Alyssa Crosby. We don't need another hero. Thunderdome.
I remember, you know why? I was like, okay, this is probably going to be her number one. Because I remember you when we initially watched it, you kept going, Thunderdome.
Thunderdome. Listen. Okay, we don't need to talk much about Asher because we know.
Yeah. And we'll
Hello,
talk.
winner.
Sure.
We'll talk plenty about him. Asher equals excellence from jump to the battles. And I love that he did not lower himself because he didn't need to. Okay? He didn't need to. Asher gave.
Right?
I'm sorry?
Anyone else would have been intimidated by Asher. Alyssa was not.
Alyssa, I believe she said in the B-roll when they were paired up, like, oh, ish, what am I going to, like, seriously, Asher? None of that came across in the performance. Alyssa gave us that 80s soul, Tina Marie vocal.
Yeah.
She more than kept up with Asher. The power and the confidence in her throat was so incredible to see because she could have wilted behind Asher because Asher equals excellence.
I disagreed with.
There were portions.
I'm sorry. I disagreed with Chance when he said that she didn't start. She started off kind of wobbly or weak or whatever he used.
That's complete BS. He didn't have his good ears in. That was complete BS because she was on from jump, and it was really, really cool to see. There were parts of this song where she was preaching. There was snappage on both sides, like the back end of that song. I was just like, oh, both y'all are just being ridiculous right now in the best way. Their blend together was so good. And, it's always impactful when you have two powerhouse voices coming together and singing power notes. That's what you had in this song. And it was so wonderful to see two artists take such a huge song and both step up to the plate where one probably should have been intimidated, but go girl, because listen to the vocal you delivered. And it was one of the saddest things of the season when she went home. Because I'm like, did y'all hear what she did?
We were so mad. We were like,
we were mad because it's like, did you just hear what she did? Did you hear the vocal that she just gave? And knowing Asher, if Asher listens to this, and he probably will, hearts to you, I know he's going to be happy that we are taking so much time to speak about Alyssa because he knows exactly what she did in that battle with him. And I know that he felt like she should have stayed too. And we know this is competition, yada, yada, yada. But I want to take the time to give Alyssa her flowers for her performance and for giving the vocal that she did, because the snappage of it all, the holleration of it all, for both of them, but in particular for her, girl, she had one of my favorite voices of the season.
She did too.
Number one, Asher and Alyssa.
Yeah.
I
agree with you 100%. I was like, wait, what's happening here? Because let me tell you, y'all were scared. Because if Alyssa would have made it through, she'd have ran. She'd have hung right there with Asher and Nathan and
Brian and Karen and Josh and all of them.
She'd have hung with them.
Yep.
She'd have hung with them. The voice is that special.
Yes,
so
it is.
I love your number one. I love your number one.
And I love yours.
Yeah, it was really special to go back and listen to some of these because I got the nuances that I don't think I necessarily caught the first time I listened to them.
Good. Yeah.
So I had a lot of fun with this round.
Good.
And I like that we had differences, right? I like that all of ours weren't the same. We had a lot of similarities in different orders. I like that you named, you and I both named ones that weren't even on our list, which are great.
That's right.
So that's great.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. So thank you so much for checking us out again. Next time we come to you, we are going to come to you with the knockouts.
Yes.
This is where we have some singing, yo. This is where some of that singing. And we were like, yo. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you're enjoying your summer as we are about to embark upon the summer ourselves with the children being home. So
pray.
God bless you, Stephanie. And
it'll be good. It'll be a fun summer.
So the household that Stephanie lives in is about to transition into summer camp. Yes. So we'll see you all soon with the next round of the Best Ofs season 25. Thank you. As always, Stephanie, tell them what they need to hear.
So don't forget to follow and subscribe to the Pitchy Podcast on your favorite podcast platform so you can be the first to know when we drop a new episode. Also, check us out on YouTube. Search for The Pitchy Podcast and hit that subscribe button so you know when we drop a new video. And last, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Pitchy Podcast for new episode alerts, episode clips, and so much more.
All right. Until we see you next time, everyone. Thanks, Pitchies. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Bye.
Bye-bye.